Welcome to Maritime Matters, a podcast focused on leaders in the maritime market, the people, the companies, the technologies that are making and breaking the news, helping to lead the maritime industry to a safer, more efficient, more profitable, and cleaner future. Welcome aboard. This is Greg Troutline, and we're very pleased to be joined again by Morgan Fanberg, the CEO of Glosten, to discuss in-depth the multiple technical trends that are reshaping the maritime industry today. But to start us off, can you give us a by-the-numbers look at Glosten today, something that really gives a size and shape to the organization?
Sure. And Greg, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's always a pleasure to talk about Glosten and the things we're up to. So where are we at today? Glosten, you always have to start off with the numbers of employees. So we're a little over 120 employees right now. Also, what's unique about Glosten is half of our staff, roughly half of our staff, are owners of the company. And I think that sets us apart from others. It reflects our collaborative approach and our invested culture. We operate out of two offices. We have an office here in Seattle. We also have a smaller office in Providence. We do have full-time remote employees, but we really try to have areas where they can collaborate and come together. Because as you know, remote work is not always ideal, and I think it's still very important that our team gets together and can work in a collaborative environment. I like to say we're a bunch of boat nerds, to tell you the truth, and that's not just our engineering staff; it's also our administrative staff. So we have all of the classic naval architects. We have marine engineers, ocean engineers, production engineers. We also have a really strong staff in marine electrical engineering staff today. But you know, we've been in business for over 67 years now, and I tried to figure out how many projects that would mean, but it's probably over 10,000 projects, 20 different countries. It's just a great company to work for, and you know, part of what Glosten's all about is our sense of pride in taking care of our clients and really digging into their problems. On day one, when they call us, we really are invested in ownership of their issues and making sure that we always offer great engineering from the get-go. I should also mention, we also own Noise Control Engineering. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Glosten. There's probably 15 people in just outside of Boston in Billerica, and they specialize in habitability, noise abatement, underwater radiated noise mitigation, and vibration issues. So that's Glosten.
I know Glosten is long tenured. You know, we've been around since 1939. Although it's starting to look like it. I have not been here since 1939, but you know, we just keep on going along as well. So, you know, with that, obviously you are long tenured in the maritime industry now, with, if I count correctly, or if LinkedIn information is correct, over 26 years at Glosten. So when you reflect on the Glosten that you joined in the 1990s and the Glosten today, can you just discuss how it's most the same, how it's most different?
Well, personally, when I started, I had a full head of hair. I should always point that out. I did actually have hair once in my life. Yeah, so it's 26 years ago. I started at Glosten 1998. I was actually an intern before that. So what has stayed the same is, again, like I mentioned earlier, our dedication to our clients, and a level of engineering that I think surpasses most. We don't leave details out of our engineering packages, and that comes back to problem solving for our clients. We don't leave things unknown. So that has definitely stayed the same. But honestly, what has changed is our growth. We've significantly grown. Now we are engaged in projects worldwide. We embrace new technologies, and we've added a lot more expertise because I think the challenges in the marine industry have gotten more complex than they were 26 years ago. Not that we didn't have difficult problems that we were trying to solve then, but the level of technology and the advancement of technology, and that rapid advancement, has really pushed us to take on more expertise and grow from simple marine engineering and naval architecture.
It's awesome. Again, Morgan, I really do appreciate those insights. And the next question is even easier because we're going to look at the whole maritime industry in that whole spectrum. And I'll preface it with I'll never forget, when I joined maritime in 1992 at the ripe old age of 26. I remember the first cover that we ever put out. It was actually for an SMM edition, and it was a Matson container ship. 3,200 TEU, big ship, and now you look at that evolution today and it's a pipsqueak. But using those same boundaries, your career, can you discuss the maritime industry? Obviously, we're involved in a number of transcendent changes. But when you look at the industry you started in and the industry today, can you just give scope on what you see has changed the most over those years?
Sure. Certainly, I think an area that hasn't changed is the focus on safety, reliability, and efficiency. Whether it's a naval architect company or an operator, I think those pillars have not changed one bit. If anything, they've grown stronger. And so when it comes to the significant transformation, again, it goes back to that integration of advanced technology. When I started 26 years ago in the industry, we used to joke about the marine industry being one of the last industries on the planet that would adopt new technology. That I think has completely changed. I don't know if the marine industry takes on technology faster than most industries, but certainly the adoption of advanced technology has grown over the last 26 years, and the willingness to change the way our clients operate their vessels has changed, and which is fantastic for an engineer. You couldn't ask for a better time to be a naval architect or a marine engineer. I really believe that because of the challenges we're facing. Every day you're gonna be faced with a new challenge today, where historically there was a method to doing our engineering. I think that has changed to where you need to be more flexible. You don't know exactly where the clients are going to take you or what problems they're asking you to solve. So I think we need to be a lot more flexible. We have to be ready to adopt new technology. And of course, this is all about a big part of this discussion. It has to be about decarbonization. I certainly, 2020, I got the distinct privilege to speak in front of Congress about this move to decarbonize. And part of that testimony was really about the support we need from government to support our private industry in this change. If you think about how long it took to go from steam to diesel, that encompassed decades, maybe a century, really. And now what we're talking about is moving away from fossil fuels in a fraction of that time. So to adopt that, to have vendors ready and willing to create new equipment that can support decarbonization efforts, we as engineers need to be on top of that and ready for that change. So certainly sustainability and impacts on the environment have been a big change in the industry over the last 26 years.
And again, I've been saying the same thing for years because everybody who's in the industry in some way talks about the rapidity of change or the lack of it. And one of my favorite quotes that I've actually used was a Mark Twain quote, and it was great because it hit home too because I grew up just north of Cincinnati. And he was asked, where do you want to be when the world ends? He goes, I want to be in Cincinnati. And he's like, why do you want to be in Cincinnati? He goes, because everything happens 10 years later in Cincinnati. Being from Southern Ohio, I can vouch for that.
I understand. Yeah.
So when you look at your job, I look at my job and I look at what I do, and I say things like, when I was starting out, there was no internet, there was no email. There were no cell phones, really. I mean, there were cell phones, but nobody really had them broadly. And my 28 and my 26-year-old look at me like I'm as old as dirt, which is increasingly relevant. But the tools that you use in your job, again, that they've changed as mightily, if not more so, than the industry around us. So, using your career again as a timeline, what do you consider to be the greatest innovation or tool that you've seen that's made the process of designing vessels and maritime solutions more efficient and effective?
Yeah, Greg, that's a fantastic question, but actually very difficult to come up with just one tool, to tell you the truth. I mean, you bring up cell phones and email, just the ability to communicate in real time. when you have staff out in the field, it could have been a few days before you even heard from them, or until they got back to the hotel. Remember, we used to use phones in hotels to call people. I mean, I don't even know why they have phones in hotels anymore to begin with. But in all honesty, I think when I think of the one tool, computational fluid dynamics, using CFD has revolutionized the way naval architecture can be done today. So, and I'm not trying to diminish the value of doing real model testing at all. What I'm saying is that based on the cost of using CFD, we can do a lot of work within the office to optimize designs today using a tool that used to be outrageously expensive and required a ton of computing power. We've been able to adopt CFD more and more into every design tool at a very efficient price point for our clients. I think I could talk all day long about scanning technology. There's another area that has completely revolutionized. I mean, it used to be tape measures and film. Remember, we used to have cameras with film that took a week to process. Now we can we take the scanner wherever we go. It's not even a question. This is part of our process. It's like having a tape measure like on your tool belt. We're taking the scanner with us. And then just finally, automated engineering tools. Using more AI into doing vessel optimization, route planning. That is a technology that is coming rapidly that we all need to embrace.
Oh, well, I personally love your telephone in hotels comment, because literally as I prepare to go to SMM, but I remember my first SMM in '92, and I remember finally getting to the hotel, and I remember finally calling home from the hotel phone, and it was my first international trip. I thought, oh, I'm a hot shot, so I'm on the phone, I'm talking, and then when I checked out, then I realized that they banged you $15 a minute to call back to the United States. And I'm looking at it and I'm in shock. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. This is
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
What the heck? But it all works out. It all works out. So
I mean, I know it feels like it hasn't been that long. I mean, I know, 26, 30 years is a long time to a lot of your listeners, but to you and
yeah,
I, it happened like that. So you can imagine what's
it
going to
does.
happen in the next 25 years, where we're going to be. The young generation, and I hope this is when I was a young engineer, that, the people that were running companies thought the same of me at the time, was the ability to embrace that technology and what they can do with it. That is really fantastic and exciting to watch, where I just sit there. Yes, I can use a cell phone pretty well, but
Yeah.
when it comes to using AI and doing more programming, what's amazing is what I see from our new staff members, people who have been out of school 5 years. It's fantastic to watch. So the next generation is going to take this marine industry to a whole new level, and it's going to be fun to sit back and watch, perhaps hopefully from a nice boat.
Morgan, in advance of the interview, I did a cursory glance on our site, of course,
Sure.
marinelink.com.
Yeah.
And I, put in Glosten, and there are two things that really stood out to me. And the first was Glosten's involvement in projects involving energy transition and future fuels, including your recent AIP from ABS on the hydrogen hybrid research vessel. I guess, can you put in perspective how energy transition has and continues to transform the work that Glosten does?
Yeah, sure. So this energy transition is profoundly transforming our work. So yes, our recent approval in principle from ABS on our hydrogen hybrid research vessel for Scripps exemplifies our dedication to pioneering sustainable solutions. So there's no question that this shift towards future fuels and renewable energy sources goes beyond meeting regulatory pressures. It really reflects our vision to lead the maritime industry in sustainable practices. Not that we don't necessarily have an agenda to push. We're really following where our clients need us to go, and to do that, we need to be ahead of it. Our clients just aren't saying, "Hey, design me a hydrogen vessel." They're saying, "Hey, to meet these requirements and to clean up the environment, we need to do something. Help us. Tell us what we should be looking at." And that requires us to do a ton of pre-work and our own investigation and getting our whole staff up to speed on all of these alternative fuel options that are out there, and more advanced technologies. So that's where we're at.
It's interesting. I mean, it's endlessly interesting to me in a lot of respects, and one of those respects is, we talk about it, and we're the media, and again, it's timely, it's topical, decarbonization, climate change, whatever you want to call it. It's obviously timely, it's topical. But and I've been in Copenhagen when they were just about to press the button on the first big engine ammonia fuel, and
Sure.
all the prep that
Sure.
went into that, and it's fascinating. So from a topical standpoint, for me, it's absolutely fascinating. But when you look at it holistically, obviously the maritime industry operates as it has for the last 100 years, primarily on diesel fuel. So I guess my question to you is, what are the challenges as you steer your organization to an inevitable future, but it's a future with a very fuzzy timeline
Sure.
still as to what that fuel is going to be, when it's going to be, while at the same time you're keeping your head, your feet, and your revenue stream solidly in the here and now.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the challenge? How do you manage that?
Well, I mean, on one level, yes, there is a push to clean the environment and to decarbonize on just about all of our clients. However, that doesn't necessarily mean a new vessel, you know, and partially it's because you might not need a new vessel, but also the outrageous cost to recapitalize and build new is there's always going to be a swing back to what can I do today with my existing fleet that will meet the requirements, or do some incremental change to get me through the next 5-10 years so that I can plan and budget for a new vessel of the future. So that means we have to be very broad in our capabilities. It's not just all about new vessel design and what alternative fuel, which is a challenge in itself. The other part of that equation is I have an old boat that I need to get 10 more years out of, and I have these regulations that I need to meet. Help me do that. And that in some cases can be an even bigger challenge, is to keep old boats running. Um, and for us, that is dedication to our clients' needs. You can't afford to build something new. I have this vessel. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, except that it's old. It has corrosion issues, and it will not meet the next level of regulatory requirements to decarbonize or lower emissions. Help me please figure that out. So.
One of the other things that stood out was the penetration, the number of projects that you have for research vessels globally.
Yeah.
This is an interesting market for me because it kind of transcends my maritime, my offshore energy, and my subsea sides. Um, is this an area that you specifically have targeted, or has it just been kind of a force of gravity that you've really had a stronghold on research vessels globally?
Well, it's probably both, an organic change, but also strategic. Our history of the company, we started doing work for the research industry quite a while ago with, obviously I do this because it flips, right? So every time I talk about flip, I'm moving my arm like this. So if you don't know what that is, I know you knew what it is, Greg, but if your listeners are aware of what flip is, please do a Google search and a YouTube search, and it's a fascinating vessel. But that is, Larry Glosten with flip solidified our spot with the research community. And then that doing research vessel work really created this company that really digs into more complex one-off vessels. We will work on tugboats, we will work on ferry boats, but the strength of our staff is the ability to design complex vessels that haven't been done before. And honestly, I'm sure people might argue with me about the level of complexity, but research vessels are extremely complex and difficult to design. And it's because scientists want their vessel to be able to do everything in a small package. And to do that requires a lot of effort on our engineering side, using new design tools to basically go further with our engineering design and to make sure that no details are left unknown. And so when I say strategic, I wanted to capitalize on our expertise in the research vessel area, and that really meant that we could probably grow globally. It's difficult for a US-based firm to compete on the global market. Make no mistake about it. But when it comes to this level of complexity, I think in the global market, yes, we have competitors that can do it well too. It really highlighted our ability to compete more broadly. So our avenue going global was really on the backs of our research vessel capabilities, but also to find and identify clients who also have extremely complex engineering problems that they could also use Glosten's expertise.
Yeah, well, with research vessels, and you know this far better than I would assume that one of the biggest feats is just keeping the ship quiet. Because I know having a quiet ship, particularly as they're doing their research, so they can get as much good noise that they want. That's amazing. And I know separately, that's obviously something that I assume is driving a lot of your business as well.
Yeah, purchasing noise control engineering back in 2015, that was another strategic move to highlight exactly what you have said. The demand for more quiet vessels, not just research vessels, because obviously that's underwater radiated noise to be able to doing your research and doing science at sea. It's really important to not have all this noise to scare away marine life. But when it comes to noise in general, more and more crew requirements are asking for quieter vessels. This is all about getting more and more people interested in the marine industry, where historically, noise and crew issues were almost a secondary problem. And now it's at the forefront of, if we want to keep crew, if we want to make life at sea better, we have to make these vessels more comfortable. And that starts with noise and vibration issues.
Or distinctly, one of the early like vessel experiences that kind of shaped me is I was in Finland. I was off in the Gulf of Bothnia on an icebreaker.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, being on an icebreaker. But I mean, you want to talk about noise. That's like, but that's that you gotta have a mindset going into that. So
Yeah, when as a cadet, I was on well, at the time it was a Sealand ship, the Sealand Tacoma, which is now owned by Matson. And, I was a cadet. I was super green. I didn't know anything at all. And I remember our first trip to Anchorage. I was in the engine room as we were pulling into Anchorage in the middle of the night, and I heard a terrible sound, just ungodly loud noise. And, I'm like 20 years old, 21. I'm freaked out. Like, what in the world is that? I run into the control room and the engineers are, you're looking at me. I'm, wide eyed. I'm like, what is that noise? I go upstairs and take a look. And sure enough, it's because we're breaking ice. And I had no
awesome.
idea that Cook Inlet got iced over and that we would be running through ice. And that was amazing. And honestly, that is a tribute to this marine industry. I'm getting off track here, Greg, but I think that we have such a fantastic industry that puts engineers and operators in the most extreme places on the planet. And there's been so many times in my career where I've just stopped, taken a deep breath and go, I could not have dreamed that I would be in this position right now with the level of responsibility and the engineering capability to help our clients. And I think that, whether you're, a veteran of the industry or just starting off, helping clients, seeing your engineering completed and the things that you have consulted on and directed towards in place and built and working, it is such a prideful moment. And it's just amazing to be able to help our clients solve their problems and see things work. And it goes back to keeping old boats running. If I can help a client keep a boat going another 5 years, that's a phenomenal day. And it's very great when you can do that for your clients. So.
Awesome. It's amazing. That's one of the things that's basically kept me hooked and kept me running for 30 plus years. Like earlier this year, I was up in St. John's, Newfoundland. It is crazy, and I'm not a professional mariner by trade, but I'm a boater for
Sure,
whatever
sure,
that means.
sure.
But I mean, you see the conditions up in St. John's, Newfoundland, and how they change, and how it's really shaped their engineering mentality. And I agree with you 100% because you have like these amazing conditions that can change in a heartbeat,
Mhm.
and it really puts stresses. I don't think the general public knows or really appreciates all of the different stresses that go into the marine environment, and
Right.
how everybody's, oh yeah, that's a truck driver going from point A to point B, give me a break. That's
Right.
not even close, not even close. So absolutely amazing. So you referenced it earlier, but you really can't talk to a technology leader today without bringing up artificial intelligence. And
Sure.
it's obviously it's there. It's a buzzword to some. I think it's a marketing brochure item for
Yep,
others.
totally.
Um,
Yeah,
but when you look at AI, can you discuss how it is now or will tangibly impact the work that Glosten produces?
sure. I mean, all my answers were created by ChatGPT. So, I mean,
I got to work on that one myself.
so yeah, no question. I mean, AI, I mean, these are buzzwords in some level. If you don't ask for specifics, when someone says, "Oh yeah, we're embracing AI and all the things we do," well, what do you actually mean by that? So there's no question the computing power and the ability to take data and store that and analyze it is there. But it requires a level of computer programming and a level of expertise that we're just starting to get into and get the right resources to help us use data that we're, first you got to start collecting it. And there are firms out there that are optimizing the ability and the ease at which you can collect data today. And what we want to do is use that data to inform our future design. So we're not starting with a blank sheet of paper. We're not going back to the last design. We are actually optimizing for a specific client's route or mission, what that could be based on historical data that can really inform us to start further than a blank sheet of paper. So there's no question when it comes to the ability to analyze data that this is where the industry is going to be pushed. And then when it comes to naval architecture, using that data and AI to put out engineering quicker and more efficiently is where the future is coming. So instead of taking a month to pull together a barge design, we're gonna be able to do that. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we're going to be able to do that in a matter of hours versus weeks, with the ability to input data, to input parameters and use AI to start doing a lot of that more common design work and engineering. That's where we're headed.
Morgan, I appreciate your time as always. I just had one more question.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, can you discuss one or two recent projects that you feel really highlight the strength and capabilities of your organization?
Sure. However, I will say it's difficult to pick just two projects. And even though I will only pick two projects for any of my employees or coworkers that are listening to me. I love all of our projects. Just to be clear, I really do. I'm not making that up. But I had to pick two to talk about. So the first one I think about is our station boat for the San Francisco bar pilots. Their operation is a little bit different. They don't have the classic pilot boats that are smaller that run out to vessels. Their station boats still have to be able to drop pilots off at vessels, but they also hold station for long periods of time to keep pilots out in the bay for longer periods of time. So we designed a CARB, the California Air Resource Board compliant station boat for them. It's a hybrid technology that we're putting on that vessel. So it will have near zero or low emissions. It was an awesome project for us to design and a great partnership with the San Francisco pilots. It's great working with them and very collaborative. So the other project that came to mind, and I wanted to bring up a project that speaks to the level of complexity and the breadth that we have at Glosten on the Francis Scott Key Bridge demolition. After the bridge collapsed, within a couple days, I believe we were helping Don John with the demolition, of the removal of the bridge wreckage. So we had a couple engineers on site. We had a staff back here supporting those two and helping Don John with the modeling of the wreckage and how to break pieces of that bridge up and remove it. And this is all based under emergency times, trying to get that port back in operation. And that, talk about a successful project of getting that port open in record time, which I think beat all expectations. So it was fantastic helping Don John and being part of their salvage team in that emergency response. And just having staff members here that are able to get on a plane and spend weeks at a time out deployed out in the field, and not exactly knowing what every day is going to be. That's a testament to the staff we have and the flexibility of the engineering problems we're able to solve.
And don't feel bad about just having to pick one or two, because I put that exact same question recently in an interview to a politician.
Oh, yeah.
And you want somebody who's going to start sweating about picking favorites.
Sure.
Politicians far and away are more worried about that than you guys.
Well, it is difficult, and I like I said, all of our projects are amazing. But those are the two that came to mind just to show the breadth, and I could have talked about research vessels till I was blue in the face, but I wanted to highlight some of the other projects that we do in the office that really speak to the breadth at which our staff and our capabilities.
I'll tell you what, on my subsea side, my marine technology reporter, we have a podcast called Deep Dive. And the deep dives are awesome because it allows you to take a more protracted, a long approach. So
Sure.
we'll put research vessels on the docket upcoming. We'll invite you to be a guest, and we'll call it a day, and we'll get somebody else involved. But no, because you're a natural talking, obviously you've served this industry, you're very passionate about it, and you're very knowledgeable about it. So again, we always appreciate your time. So
well, I
Morgan,
do love my job, but this company has been amazing to work for. But I say that I joke with people too, because I've never worked anywhere else. I always have to remind people when I talk about how great it is to work here, I do feel a little guilty, and I have to say, just beware, I've never worked anywhere else. So I don't know what it's like, but it is great to work here.
Thank you for listening to Maritime Matters. If you would like to be featured on a future Maritime Matters podcast, visit www.marinelink.com or email maritimematters@marinelink.com.